questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Also, if you guys would like your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, you guys can send me an email and we will go from there. So what you guys can do is you guys can go on my website, go underneath the readings tab, select which reading you guys would like, and then an email window should pop up. So when you guys select the email window comes up, you guys can send me an email. We'll go from there, okay? So that's kind of how you guys basically do the readings, or like select the reading or book the reading, okay? And then if the email window doesn't pop up, you guys can send me an email, okay? Now, I also have astrology guidance, so astro guidance, business guidance. I also have the social media guidance as well. So that's going to all be on my website as well, okay? And also be sure to check out my online store, fortheloveofastro.com, okay, for astrology themed items. Hey everyone, hey Edward. How you guys doing? What is new? What is the 411? What would you guys like to talk about today? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is new? Welcome, everyone. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. What should we talk about today? Stop, Melissa. I used to use one that got discontinued too. Which one did you used to use? The one that I recently got, I don't have it here, but it's like the Revlon Micro Tip. There's two of them, but one of them is called like the Micro, so that's the one that I use. So that's so wild. Which one did you used to use that was discontinued? Hey everyone, Saturn return to Pisces. I know Saturn is back in Pisces. Hey everyone. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal chart. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm not sure what happened. I feel like I went to click something and then it shut it off. But I'm back. I am back. It's not even Mercury retrograde, so... You said you have 29-degree Pisces in the 9th house. Oh, that's intense. You probably got restricted in the area of relationships. And then, oh, so interesting I said relationships. I'm curious to know now, because I said that by accident. If you have a Saturn and Venus. Hey, from the Philippines. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking in my mind. I was like, okay, for those of you who are dedicated to the live, you guys will find me again. And you did. Welcome. Hey, in the Philippines, what's the time over there? I'm trying to think. I went to Thailand. Is it, let me know what time is it in the Philippines. I'm curious to know. You said you also have Pluto and conjunct. What's Pluto conjuncting? But yes, okay, so because I said Saturn, the relationships, I'm curious to know if you have Saturn, Venus, because that was kind of like a glitch. But the 29-degree Pisces 9th house, the area where you would have gotten restricted in would have been your religion overall and your spiritual beliefs. Welcome, everyone. Hey again. Yes, welcome. I am back. I am back. You said you were using Rammel's gel liner that they were making about 10 years ago. You stocked up and you're on the last one. So here's the thing. I didn't even know mine was going to get discontinued. The one that I was using was L'Oreal. See, I don't know the whole name, because I also use that one literally, I think my entire life, like since I've been doing liquid eyeliner, that one. And then all of a sudden I went to the store and they didn't have any more. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And then it's like a whole thing, because it's like, not only is it the tip, it's like also the way you hold the pen. So it was like a whole mini crisis. But then I ended up finding this one. So this is like the Revlon Micro something. It has Revlon in it and Micro. And then I just stuck to it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You drowned as a baby and you survived. That's that Pisces energy. Oh my gosh, that's so intense. I even got a vision of you from actually like a past life that actually happened to you in a past life, but in the past life you were taken out, unfortunately. So it's interesting that that happened again, and when you were young and then you survived. It's almost like that got like energetically cut, like cleared very quickly for you. Let's see. You said after a certain age, is it better to look at the progress chart if one is choosing between a natal chart reading or the progress natal chart reading? Yeah, if you're older, usually the people who are older, now it's hard to say what age because everyone's like planets progress differently, right? Because it depends on the degrees. So you can always take a look and see what's going on with your progress natal chart before you decide which reading you guys would like to do. Now, if you guys are looking to do a reading with me, I look at, when I'm doing the progress natal chart readings, I look at the original chart and the progress chart. So I talk about both. So yes, so it depends. It's hard to say because it's like the sun approximately, they say, you know, moves every 30 years, right? But that depends on your degrees because it's like approximately, okay, the way they calculate it is like, okay, so within a season, so like Scorpio season, Libra season, you have approximately 30 days, right? So that's how they calculate it, like 1 degree basically per year for the sun. And then, you know, by the time you're 30, it would have changed signs. But it's like, let's say you started off with like a 20-degree sun, that would have progressed already by the time you were maybe like 3 or 4, right? So that's the situation. It's hard to say. Hey, Three Heavens Healing, welcome. Welcome to my live. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Okay, I'm just going back to the top here to see what you guys were saying. You said Saturn return Pisces 12th house. What's the difference between Vedic and tropical? Is Vedic more accurate to people born at night? Also, the sign, what is the accurate sun, moon, ascendant? See, that's what's hard to say. Okay, the way that I've kind of come to, you know, rationalize why both systems resonate, because they resonate for me, okay? So keep in mind, in Vedic and in tropical, you're going to have the Placidus system in both, and both of them have whole sign, okay? So both of them are going to have the 2 different, you know, Placidus and whole sign. So that's something that I noticed. Now, the thing is, obviously, I'm not well-versed in Vedic. Like, they're going to say, the Vedic people are always going to be like, which is sidereal. They're going to be like, that's the true constellations in the sky because of the equinoxes and this moved and that moved. So they're going to be like, that's the real astrology and that's the true astrology. But it's like, when I got my readings done, like from other people back in the day, both of those systems resonated for me. So the only thing that didn't resonate was like the whole sign versus Placidus for me. So for me, everything resonates more in Placidus in both of the systems. Does that make sense? So the only way I can explain it, why it resonates, it's like you have the sign, which is going to be like the, let's say in the Placidus system, let's say you are a Libra, not the Placidus, in the tropical system, Placidus or whole sign, doesn't matter. Let's say you're a Libra, right? And then in the Vedic, it's going to be shifted up 1. But at some point in time in history, it's not going to be like that. Does that make sense? Because it was like slowly changing. So it's not going to resonate for everybody because some people might be, let's say, a Leo in both systems, right? But most of the time you'll see that they are shifted up 1. So let's say you're a Libra in the tropical, you might be a Virgo in the sidereal / Vedic system, right? So the way that I see it is like Libra is the outward expression, basically, of the soul of the energy, which is Virgo. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I rationalize all the signs, because if you put the sign as the first house, the 12th house of that sign is going to be the preceding sign. So it's like, the way that I see it at least is, you know, you have one energy that is the outward expression, and then you have the soul of the energy. So that's how it resonates for me. But that's just me. So I'm sure you're going to have the Vedic sidereal people tell you a different story. But yes, that's kind of how I've come to rationalize it at this point in time, because both systems resonate. I find that Vedic / sidereal is really good for like synastry, basically, or their version of synastry, right? Because they have all the different charts. And for them, they were basically focused right back in the day, because a lot of it originates from India, right? And they were focused on arranged marriages and, you know, basically arranging those marriages through the astrological systems, right? And in terms of Vedic and sidereal, I mean, you know, they have such a large population, right? So there's something here that clearly works, you know, when you look at the synastry. Yeah, you have the nakshatras in there too. Again, you know, I'm not well versed in that. I've gotten like my chart read by people who do Vedic / sidereal. There's a lot of interesting things in there. It's like a very, very complex system. Like there is a lot to learn in the Vedic / sidereal. Now I've seen a lot of people who learn, let's say, the tropical system, and then they go to the Vedic / sidereal, and then even they're going to be like, it's more accurate. Some people say that for transits, The Vedic one is more accurate, but here's the thing. Like, let's say you have a conjunction in the tropical one, you're going to have that in the Vedic one as well, right? So there's that what's taking place too. And personally, these days, like the whole, like the aspects in a chart, to me, like play an even bigger part of the story. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's my story about that. You said there are many lenses to look at the life, and mystics take what makes sense to you in connection. And yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, there's always a reason why certain things are there, right? Like that's the way that I see everything. Like the information is there for a reason, right? Maybe part of the reason is like the area of the world. Like maybe there it resonated more for whatever reason. And then now we have like the Western tropical astrology, which for whatever reason resonates here. Maybe like it could be something to do with that. I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm not sure. But yeah, like there's a reason why you have two different systems. Like it's there, right? We just kind of have to get to the bottom of like, what is this reason, you know? So that's my story about that. Let me go up and see what were you guys saying up here. Let's see. Okay, Corel, I'm just looking at your messages. If you're still in the chat, can you tell me? I'm just going back to your Saturn here. Or no, back to what you were saying, Pluto conjunct 16 degrees. Is Pluto conjuncting the Saturn for you? And then you mentioned Uranus later. Okay, here you said Pluto, Uranus conjunct in the 3rd house Virgo, opposing your 9th house Saturn. Okay, so you have Pluto, Uranus conjunct. So that's generational. The Pluto, Uranus. These people, like that subset of your generation with the Pluto Uranus, are probably going to bring through a lot of new inventions. Okay, like that's very much ahead of the time energy with the Pluto Uranus in there, and it's going to like transform the collective. Okay, so that's you and the subset of your generation, like all of you guys together. Okay, and then all of that is opposing your Saturn. That's really interesting because that's all generational in there. So there's a lot going on here with your subset of the generation. It's a lot of power struggles, with the father. But you know what? For you and the subset of your generation that have this, I feel like the power struggles you guys encounter either with the father, the dominant masculine role in your life, teachers, managers, and so on and so forth. Like these power struggles you guys encounter maybe at school, right? And later on maybe managers and so on and so forth. Like they're kind of meant to help you guys come into your power so you guys can come up with whatever these inventions are with the Pluto Uranus in there. That's just my theory. And then having for you, so that's the thing, okay, you guys have to look at it this way. With the generational planets, the sign affects the subset of your generation, okay, and then the house affects you more because it's the area of life where that energy is being expressed for you, okay? So now having Saturn in the 9th house, you got restricted also probably in the area of education or higher learning. Like you might do your like extended education, like let's say you do bachelor's, master's, so on and so forth, like around your Saturn return or like quote unquote later on in life. Oh yes, good question. Which placement indicates a great sense of humor? One of you guys asked me that, so that's going to be a short that's going to be coming up soon, okay? Because I'm getting through all of my shorts that I posted on TikTok first. So by the way, you guys, check out my TikTok because that's kind of where I started posting those shorts first if you guys want to see them before I post them on YouTube. And there's really no reason for that. It just kind of happened that way. And like on YouTube, it's not like I'm going to post them all at once. You know what I mean? I'm kind of doing like 3 per day. But the one about, so one of you guys messaged in the comments and I wrote that down on my phone. So that's going to be one that's coming out. So it'll come out on YouTube, on TikTok first. By the way, my TikTok is BJOSIC. Okay. So BJOSIC, that's my TikTok. And then my YouTube and Instagram and Threads even, okay, is going to be Barbara JSC. Okay. So everything is pretty much Barbara JSC except my TikTok. Because for whatever reason that handle wasn't available by the time I changed it. So back in the day, everything for me was BJOSIC, and then eventually I went to Barbara JSC, and then on the TikTok, because like it was BJOSIC first, I couldn't get that handle because I guess someone else has it or something. I don't know. Anyways, that is what's going on. So yes, to answer your question, in terms of the funniest or like great sense of humor, okay, you're gonna look at the Mercury. So that's going to be either, and this is my own opinion from what I've observed, the funniest Mercury placements are going to be Mercury in Gemini, Mercury in Sag. It depends what kind of humor, right? It depends what kind of humor we're talking about. But overall, generally, people who are funny and silly and goofy, it's going to be Mercury in Gemini, Mercury in Sagittarius, Mercury in Leo, okay? I would say those are the funniest energies. Now, also, if you look at Mercury, you can look at the aspects. So let's say Mercury being aspected by the sun, Mercury being aspected by Jupiter. That's going to be funny, right? Those people are going to be funny. Now, let's say you have Mercury Pluto in there. Well, the Pluto is going to kind of, you know, make everything a little bit more brooding, or it might make it into dark humor, right? So that's that. But in terms of, like, let's say lighthearted and so on and so forth, you're going to have Mercury in Gemini, Mercury in Sag, and then also you're going to have Mercury in Leo, okay? Now, with that being said, you can also look at the third house. So third house in Gemini, third house in Leo, third house in Sag, okay? All those energies are going to be quote unquote funny. Now, Mercury in Libra could potentially be funny because it's an intelligent sign, right? Depends what kind of humor we're talking about here. So they could be, but again, keep in mind, Libra likes to people please, right? So it's like, you know, depends what kind of humor we're talking about, right? Because it's like, if you want everyone to like you, sometimes you can't make a joke because, you know, you're trying to please everybody, right? So that could be the struggle with the Mercury in Libra. And in general, Sag energy, I would say, is pretty funny too. And what else? Oh, if you're looking at dark humor, maybe like a Capricorn or like a Scorpio energy in there, right? So it depends, like, what kind of humor are we talking about, right? Sometimes, you know, if we look at like maybe more so like intuitive humor where someone kind of like points out something that other people aren't noticing or like mentioning, that's going to be Scorpio energy always, okay? So it's going to be like, you know, something's happening in the background, right? Like, let's say everyone's talking in a group and there's some person in the background that no one's noticing, and like that person's like jumping up and down or like doing something strange, and then maybe the other person who's also on the same page as the Scorpio type of energy is noticing it. You know what I mean? So then the Scorpio person makes a comment and they start laughing together. So it depends, right? But in a nutshell, okay, it's going to be, like I mentioned, Mercury or third house, okay? Mercury or third house Gemini, Mercury or third house in Sag, Mercury or third house in Leo. I would say those are the funniest, okay? Yes. Oops. 1 second. Don't fly away from me, you guys. Let's see what else you guys are saying in here. Okay. Hello, Alan Frost from Italy. How are you doing? Yeah, those are the quote unquote funniest ones, I would say. Yeah, so the shorts that I've been doing, like, you know, obviously if we're gonna go in depth, it's gonna be whole videos for those concepts, right? I'm kind of going for like most common, right? Like, let's say we're looking at a yearbook, funniest, you know, it's gonna be this energy. If we're looking in the yearbook, it's gonna be all the things that I've mentioned, right? Strongest, this energy, right? If we're gonna go through a whole list, I mean, it'll take forever, right? So that's kind of what's going on with that. What do I think about Mercury square Mercury and Synastry? That's gonna be communication issues. Concerned, hello, welcome. I was wondering if you were going to tune into the live today since it is earlier. You said North Node in Libra video was revelatory for you. It was accurate for you and shows you how astrology tells our life story. Exactly. That is what is going on. You said, what are my thoughts on Grand Cross and nodes on those angles? Let me think. For Grand Cross, I'd have to do a video about that, but can you guys give me a little bit more information? What are your North nodes on there? But probably like the Grand Cross activates your life purpose. In a nutshell, it would be this, okay? I'm just going back up here to see what you guys were saying earlier. Let's see. You said, okay, let me go way back up. Let's see. What were you guys saying all the way up here back when we were talking about the eyeliner? You said it's already 10:43 p.m. Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't 100% sure about the time in the Philippines. That's what I was thinking, but you basically confirmed, yes. So that's the time zone difference. You said, what will happen for the Virgo eclipse? You have no Virgo placements, just Virgo occupying the third house. So, okay, this eclipse is going to be a new moon. Okay, so we just had the full moon, which is endings. Now we're going to go into a new moon, which is beginnings. A lot of the time, whatever's activated during the eclipse, you'll kind of see come into fruition during the next ones, which are usually around March, okay? So pay attention to that because this is the third house. Is going to deal with speaking, communication, writing, siblings, maybe cars, okay? So maybe something's going to come up for you or be brought to the surface, okay? During this period of time, maybe you're going to start something, okay? Because it's kind of like illuminating it for you is really what it is, okay? So we had the endings, the purge period, and we're going to go into the new beginnings. And then you'll see those things come into fruition around next year, March, when we have the next eclipses, like around that time, okay? You guys would have to double check when they are exactly. So those are the cycles usually with the eclipses, okay? And we go through those every year, okay? But the third house, yeah. Speaking, writing, communication, friends, siblings, cousins, okay? Saturn return in Pisces in the 12th house. That's intense. Hey, Tree Heavens Healing. How are you doing? You said, what is Moon, Uranus, Neptune, and Fortune in Aquarius about? Aquarius in the 5th house, Libra, Sun here. So basically bringing through new inventions and then expressing them creatively, okay? In a nutshell, it would be this. Moon, Uranus, Neptune. Don't get distracted by the Neptune and Moon, okay? Because there could be a lot of emotions and feelings that might have to be processed, okay? So even though your moon is in Aquarius, which is quote unquote detached, you have Neptune aspecting the moon, right? So it makes you porous energetically and prone to picking up on everyone's energies around you, okay? But it also makes you psychic. So it's this. Now, if you do substances and things that are going to open up your energy field even more, well, in that case, you're going to go out of body even more. So you might have to focus on being grounded. But yeah, if you don't get distracted by the moon and Neptune, the rest of the energies in there are going to bring through some sort of new invention, idea, and so on and so forth, okay? Hey, everyone. How you guys doing? Yes, I'm glad that you caught the early live. I've been doing a few early lives because I usually don't catch the international people with the later ones. So I kind of started doing the earlier ones. Yeah, to just kind of like spread it all out, you know? Let's see what you guys saying in here. You said Mars and Scorpio, trine Saturn and Cancer. Mars and Scorpio, trine Saturn and Cancer. Okay, that's a struggle. Okay, it depends how you look at it with the Mars and Saturn, okay? Because Mars and Saturn, it could be a struggle because it's Mars and Scorpio, which this energy is very potent, right? In terms of their ability to manifest and in terms of their sexual energy, and it's an attractive energy and all of that on its own, right? Now, Saturn is in here, so you may experience restrictions, okay? When it comes to your sexuality, when it comes to expressing your sexuality, because it's Mars, right? So that's the struggle with the Saturn aspecting the Mars. Now, in the divine version, it's like Saturn helps you ground the sexual energy to basically create things down here, right? So if you want to start a business, if you want to start a project, if you want to hustle, Saturn helps you ground. So it's a good energy for business, I would say, like Mars and Scorpio, and then trining the Saturn. It's a trine, so it's a little bit more subtle. You might not feel it as much. The only area where you quote unquote might feel restricted could be the expression of sexuality overall, or even vulnerability, for example, when it comes to your relationships, right? The Mars Saturn, like especially when it's in Scorpio, it's like, again, Scorpio wants to go deep, Saturn is restricting you, and Saturn might even add an okay. I just got a call, so hopefully the sound stays, because sometimes the sound disappears. Hey, Tiffany, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Happily divorced monk. I like that name. That's very interesting. You said, in a nutshell, how would you describe a 7-planet? That's actually so fascinating because I literally saw a monk on the bus yesterday. But anyways, you said, in a nutshell, how would you describe a 7-planet stellium in Virgo? You said first house. Oh, it's in the first house too. What should you be expecting for this upcoming eclipse? So some sort of newness, something like being shown to you, connected to maybe your personality, your identity overall. Maybe you let something go, okay, in terms of your quote unquote identity that no longer serves you, that's been holding you back from where it is that you're trying to go. Now, having all of that in Virgo is a struggle because you could deal with a lot of criticism and then self-criticism. And I'm curious to know, in terms of the 7-planet stellium, is the sun and the moon in there, okay? Oh, good, you can hear me. No, it's the same one. I think it's just like because it's so early in the day, it's like very bright in here. So maybe that's why everything is maybe more sharp. Thanks for being here, Herbal Rishi. You said, thanks for the answer. Thank you. Thank you about my observations. Yes, I can consider myself an observer of life and just, yeah, compartmentalizing everything, or like storing everything in my, what I call energetic repertoire in my mind. Okay. So I meet people, I pick up on the energies, and now I'm pretty good at pinpointing energies within people when I meet them, like what's going on internally. And even like, for example, because I just did a Michael Jackson reading, you guys, and that's going to be on my second channel. By the way, check out my second channel. Yeah, there's so much going on. I have a second channel too, okay? So my second channel is called Barbara Talks Some More. And the thing is, I don't post on there as often because I kind of have to hook into the person's energy. But a lot of the time when I do hook into the person's energy, it like doesn't leave energetically until I do the reading, basically. Does that make sense? Like basically express the energy out, okay? So I did the reading on Michael Jackson, so I'm going to be posting that over there. Okay. And it's so interesting because as I was doing that reading, I was thinking I've gotten to the point now where I hook into the energy and I'm looking for that in the natal chart. Does that make sense? So when I learn things, I like feel into it to see what it feels like. And then I feel it within people and then I look for it in the natal chart. Like for example, the other day I was at an event and there was this individual, and this individual basically was like stuck on like a 1-month situationship that took place. Like situationship, which by the way, don't get me started on situationships, okay? Anyways, so this person had a 1-month long situationship, and this was like 2023, and they were stuck on this, like now it's 2025, okay? In my mind, I'm like, this person has to have Venus square Neptune. I knew it in my head. I'm like, this is Venus square Neptune behavior, like right here, okay? Lo and behold, there it is, okay? So that's kind of like what's going on. I call it my energetic repertoire, okay? So I store the energy, like how it feels to me, okay? And then I'm now able to pick up on it within people. Or it's like chicken and the egg. Sometimes I pick up on it and then I learn what it is. Do you know what I mean? So it says, okay, so you said you have Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Pluto, Uranus. It's called Barbara Talks Some More, okay? So this one's Barbara Talks, and that one's called Barbara Talks Some More. I'm sure you'll be able to find it maybe under my About Me page, okay? And underneath the posts, like the community posts, I've probably shared videos on there so you can find it through there as well, okay? So it's Barbara Talks, and then Some, so S-O-M-E, More, M-O-R-E, okay? You can go on there. I've done synastry readings on there and then readings about individuals as well, okay? Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad that you like that channel. So I talk about what I pick up on. Now, it's not like I'm channeling the person, okay? It's not like a mediumship reading. I'm just hooking into the energy around people and the situation and then kind of looking at their charts, okay? Yeah, energetic repertoire. So I hold it in there, and then the more that I meet people, the more that I do readings and so on and so forth. Yeah, I've had that channel for a while. I just don't post on there so much because like I mentioned, I kind of have to hook into the person's energy. And yeah, it just is what it is. But yeah, I post it all over there. I kind of separated it. Like this is my astrology, you know, readings, well, not readings, but like astrology, everything about astrology. So like, so you guys can kind of look at your own natal charts, read your own natal charts, right? That's this channel, okay? And my lives, of course. And then over there, I do the public figure and natal chart readings. And then maybe other things, but you know, for now it's just that, okay? So it's Barbara Talks Some More. Thank you, Sarah, for commenting. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to screenshot that. You said, I'm always spot on. It's scary. I'm glad. Thank you. Yes. Because you guys, okay, this is what I'm going to say. I am psychic first, right? Like I'm clairsentient. I am clairvoyant. I'm claircognizant. Okay. So that's first, right? And, you know, my whole journey has kind of been like looking for an outlet of how to ground the psychic gifts. Does that make sense? Okay. So I did the readings, I did tarot, and I did all of that, but I just found that too open energetically. So astrology, I think because astrology is, you know, this means this, this means that, it like, for me, helps me ground, okay? The intuitive energy is really what it is, and I really enjoy it. So yeah. You said just checked it out. Yeah. Yeah, basically, Edward, he kind of has to speak up, and the clock is kind of ticking for him. So I'm curious to see what ends up happening. You said when you meet someone, thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Yes, you guys can like the live by double tapping on the screen as well during the live. And then if you guys are watching the live replay, just the usual way. But yes, obviously, if you guys so choose to, thank you so much. And that's so we can meet more astrology friends. You said when you meet someone with interesting energy, you feel like you have to get their birthday, birth time, birthday, city. Yeah, ASAP. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's better. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, that's what I was saying earlier, you know? Some cultures were very ahead of their time by looking at the synastry and the charts, because it's like when you look at the charts, especially if you look at the synastry, right? You can kind of activate either positive things between each other or negative things, right? And like, why are you going to get involved with that person if it's going to bring negativity into your life? So you said, how do I feel about ChatGPT doing charts? Here's the thing, I put in my birth time in there and all my information. Like, I was like, okay, like, I just want to see, is it going to give me accuracy? And it got my moon sign wrong every time. So I don't trust it. I hate to say that. I know people can like take, you know, like aspects and ask, you know, ChatGPT to explain it to them. Keep in mind, you guys, like ChatGPT is gathering all of the information from the internet and kind of spewing it out, right? So I don't know what it's like now, but being a Scorpio dominant / Pluto dominant person, it didn't really get my trust, because I'm like, why are you saying that this is my moon sign when it's not? And then I was like, okay, try again. And then it gave me another wrong moon sign. So do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where it got my mistrust, like whatever the word is, and it got cut. So yeah, that was a very short-lived experience. But yes, I've heard good things. I've heard good things from people, but at the same time, I'm like, do those people actually know anything about astrology, you know? So yes, you said it got your big three wrong too. There you go. Yeah, it got it wrong. So that was like way in the beginning when it like first came out. And then I feel like recently I went to test it again because I think I heard people being like, oh, this, but it still got it wrong. So yeah, that's the struggle. So it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of people are also getting misinformation from that. I just find it interesting, like, you guys, oh my gosh. Okay, people who are in the new age and they're trying to talk about, I'm gonna call it chat, okay? I'm not gonna say the whole word anymore. They're trying to call chat like a spiritual entity. You have like the split between the people. Some people are calling it demonic entity. Some people are calling it this like divine being. I'm like, do you guys know that this is programmed by people? Like, are you aware of that? Like, hello? But anyways, I guess not, okay? It's not only programmed by people, but it's also programmed by people talking to it. It's like you're programming it for free. And I'm just like, what's going on here, okay? Personally, the only thing I think people should be using like chat for is how to make money, like ideas, okay? Or like your resumes or interview tips, or if you're like lazy to write a cover letter, like those types of things, okay? I think it's beneficial for that. Or like, again, maybe if you're like looking for an answer for something, yes. But if you're writing your whole life story in there and your feelings and you're talking to it all day, and I'm like, do you not have friends? Like, I genuinely want to know. Like, everyone's like locked in their house and like they all have like different names, like they call their like chat different names, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what in the Black Mirror is taking place? Okay, so that's my opinion on chat. Okay, so use it to your benefits and maybe use it to help you, again, to make money or do something productive, you know? Like, I think it's beneficial for things like that, but like pouring all your feelings into it and using it as a therapist, I'm just like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? I'm just like really confused. But anyways, I guess that's where we are at this point in time in the collective. You said you feel like I'm one of the few spiritually minded humans who isn't delusional and understands. Yeah, darkness, exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty grounded, I would say. Thank you so much for the kind words. That's the thing, because here is the issue. Because I think genuinely, because you said understands the darkness, I think people don't do the shadow work. And I think that that's what the problem is, okay? Because people don't do the shadow work, they get all the spiritual information, and then they, like, the body, it needs to be able to process it. Okay, let me explain it to you guys like this, okay? Anytime you guys get like spiritual information, some people call it a download, whatever, right? It's light coming into your body and high frequency energy, right? So what happens is, because you have all this light energy coming into your body, all of the shadows are going to come to the surface. That's basically why the world is on fire right now, because the frequency is actually really high. If you guys unplug from the news and the media and all of that stuff, okay, and you go outside, you will literally see that we have actually shifted energetically. Like, literally, it's like a whole new world energetically, okay? So because the frequency is so high, okay, and there's a lot of light energy coming into the planet, which is coming actually from the sun, and I already went on this rant once where they're like trying to block out the sun because two reasons. One of it is they don't want the high frequencies to come in because that's going to bring through the awakenings, okay? But the other reason is they can't power, this was just like my own opinion from what I've come to conclude, they can't power their tech, or like the new tech they want to power, they can't power it through this, like the sun interferes with it. There's something going on with the sun's frequencies interfering with the tech, because I noticed that one day and it came through. So that's just my own opinion. You guys can take it as it resonates, okay? So that being said, because all this light frequency is coming in, and you know, it doesn't have to be light frequency. It could be a person who comes into your life who's kind of integrated, right? All the shadows are coming to the surface, okay? You have to look at these shadows. Otherwise, you become split and they're still going to creep in. That's how cults are formed, okay? All these things, which I find a lot of spiritual groups at this point in time, allegedly, in my opinion, are very cultish to me, because it's like they're feeding you hopium, okay? It's like narcissism. They're feeding you hopium to keep you hooked. They're not helping you become empowered, okay? And they're not weaning you off. They want to steal your energy is basically what it is, which is ultimately an energy vampire and narcissism, okay? So in a lot of these communities, you have the narcissism running rampant, and that's like part of the collective shadow, because the collective shadow, I spoke about this on the previous slide, we have to look at the narcissism within the human, right? Like, everyone has a little bit of it, okay? And not everybody is a narcissist. It's just that the system has been that way, so it's within the collective shadow, right? So you have to always check your ego. Like when you're doing something, like, are you doing things for an ego-driven reason? And I talk about this sometimes when like psychics become shadowy, for example, because like they have a gift, but then it's like they're depending on that gift, let's say, to solely like financially provide for them. And then maybe they're not getting the finances that they need to survive. Okay. And especially this day and age, things are becoming more expensive, right? So that being said, it's like they become shadowy. They're going to be like, oh, you have to buy this $10,000 candle, or this is going to happen to this person in your life. You know what I mean? Like they do all this like shadow stuff, right? Because it's like they're scammers. And that's what a lot of people think psychics are scammers, which is so annoying, right? Because that's someone who's unintegrated and shadowy. So it's like, I always go on this rant. If you can't make money doing this type of work, you have to find another job for the work to remain pure, right? And I'm also not saying don't charge for your services, because some people undercharge. And that's a huge thing within the spiritual communities that I've also noticed. So you have the narcissistic people who like charge $10,000 for a retreat. Yeah, I'm really curious to see like what ends up happening with the downfall of like that group of people. But anyways, that's just my opinion. And then you have the other people who are like so selfless and doing it for free, and then they're drained. I said this to you guys before. If you feel drained after you do this type of work or any kind of work, it's because you are underpaid. Okay, there isn't an equal energy exchange for your time and your energy for that thing. Okay, and you know, you get drained, basically is what it is. So it's just, but then you have the narcs who like scam people, right? So it's really interesting to see the polarity of what is going on. So all that to say, when you guys get light energy coming into your body, you have to process the shadow, okay, to remain grounded. Otherwise you become fragmented, and then the shadow creeps in. Okay, that's why you have a lot of not just cult leaders, but like, it was so interesting. So when I did my yoga teacher training, I had to, and I don't teach yoga anymore because that's a rant on its own about the shadow of that community. Anyways, so when I did my yoga teacher training, basically like part of the curriculum was to write an essay about one of like the yogi teachers, or like someone who's like put on a pedestal. And I looked at the list and I'm like, all of these people have literally been charged with like SA, sorry, trigger warning, okay? And I was like, all of these people have been charged with like shadowy types of things. And a lot of them were actually like charged with SA. So in my head, I'm like, why am I gonna like talk about these people like they're someone important when you're obviously not? So my article, or like my like essay, was about why I'm not picking any of those people because of the reasons that I just mentioned, but I obviously went off like even longer. But yeah, so that's the whole point here. It's like, you know, those people are an example of someone who's not integrated, okay? Because the shadow of the self is still gonna creep in, is really what it is. Does that make sense? So yes. Thank you, Edward. I definitely try to keep it real with you guys, okay? Let's see. You said ChatGPT got your moon sign wrong. See? You said it was your progressed moon sign. That's interesting. Every time I typed in, so that was a few years ago now, maybe 2-3 years ago when it first came out. Hard to say exactly because the time has been flying. But yes, I haven't been on it like recently, but that's interesting because I remember when I typed it in, it gave me the wrong moon sign. I was like, that's not it. Try again. Or like obviously nicer, because I try to be nice to it, because I'm like, if these bots actually come to life, like they're not coming after me. You know what I mean? So I'm always like, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, I was like, oh, like, can you, whatever I said, like in a nice way, basically. And it got it wrong again. So it's interesting that you're saying that it was a progressed moon sign, because I'm curious to know if it was the progressed. I feel like it wasn't for me now in retrospect, but I'm curious to know. Maybe I'll try after this live. Of course I did. Yeah, no, I went off, Sarah. I'm not going to support someone, like, I don't understand why these people are put on a pedestal when they're all shady. And a lot of them end up going into that direction. Obviously not all of them, but a lot of them do, if you guys notice. There's always something shady. Like, have you guys noticed? It's so fascinating to me. And again, I'm not going to say any names, but have you noticed a lot of these people, like, as soon as they like discover spirituality, like a few things take place. They either start like a sex cult. And it was so interesting because I actually knew someone who thankfully had like no power, but in my head I was like, if this person was in a position of power, they would be like a very dangerous person, because this one idea that they had was giving like sex cult vibes. And ever since then, like when I would mention this person, like their name, do you guys do this with your friends where you guys like kind of give people code names? So this person's just like permanently called like the sex cult person, okay? So they never started anything, I don't think so, because they're like not a person in power, and they're very much like not ambitious. And this is so many years now, right? I'm sure they would have ended up on the news at this point in time. But anyways, so I'm gonna kind of speak between the lines because obviously I don't know what I can say on here. But it's like, I was like, this is a red flag. I'm like, oh, what is going on here? I'm like not in contact with this person. Like this was so many years ago. This was before CV actually. So it would have been maybe like 2019. And this person was like, oh, what? Like they were in like the spiritual community and they're like, oh, like what if this took place? And in my head, I'm like, you're giving like sex cult energy like heavy right now. So anyways, have you noticed a lot of these people somehow always end up creating that type of cult? I'm not going to say that word again because again, you don't know how many times you can say something on here. So that's something that I noticed with them. They always kind of go in that direction, or it goes in the direction where there's like one leader and then his epiphany ends up being like, oh, I need to have multiple lovers around me. Like there's one person too that I'm thinking of. I don't know their name, but I saw them on the news. So that person, and it goes in that direction. All of a sudden the epiphany is like, oh, it needs to be like a polyamorous, like couple, like cult or whatever. So it's interesting to see like, those are like the epiphanies that they come to. Cause I'm just like, how is this always like the same like outcome? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he was, Sarah. I'm not going to say his name, but that's exactly who I was alluding to. That's exactly who I was alluding to earlier, because then he escaped. So he scammed, not only did he scam everyone, because he like created his whole business model. Because my thing is like, if you're going to be a scammer, like go work in Wall Street, like do any other industry other than the healing industry. But it takes a special type of like evil person to go into the healing industry and like pry on vulnerable people. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, it's like people who kind of look for spirituality or get to that point of like looking for spirituality are looking for alternative solutions because like the mainstream didn't work. That's the way that I see it, right? So they kind of exhausted all their options. Now they're here. And not only are they here now, they now stumbled upon this person who is like evil and now going to take advantage of them, you know? So yeah, it's really interesting to see. And then there's always grooming and it's all narcissism. There's triangulation and then they have like the favorites. Like, yeah, they have documentaries about all those people. I'm answering about astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. No, I haven't. Astrotheology, maybe not directly. I am really into theology. I've looked into, okay, so I have a video on here where I talked about book recommendations. So I talked about basically like my goal was to get to like the root of all the religions, like the spiritual aspect of all the religions. So, and I'm someone who doesn't really like to read, okay? So actually I had to train myself to like pay attention and read, okay? So I wanted to get to the root of all the religions and I found a bunch of different books, like kind of like the spiritual side of the religions. So I have all those books under my book recommendations video from a few years ago. I actually ended up donating all those books, so I don't have any of them anymore, or like trading them, because back in the day, did any of you guys know about the app called Bits? It's like before, I guess, even crypto became so much of a thing, but I don't even think that they even really exist anymore. But yeah, so I basically traded those books for like bits so I could get bus tokens. But anyways, long story short, the books were about Gnosticism, about all the religions, okay? So Gnosticism, Sufism, Buddhism, okay, all of them, everything. Like I wanted to get to the root of it. So in terms of theology, like that's kind of what I know about theology, but I'm not sure about astrotheology. I'm sure it's maybe like putting everything together. Yeah, exactly. You know the energy that I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a specific type of demon, okay? It's like, and this is why you can't ever say that it's any specific type of gender, because it's like a entity and it's like a demon that travels through people, okay? So if you guys look at like the demon that's connected to narcissism, you can't say it's this gender or that gender. It actually travels through people. Like you'll see it within everybody, right? So, and it's like, it's really interesting because it's like when you see like these people, at least for me, it's like they're very obvious on the outside. Like it's almost like they're very energetically empty and it's like the entity is literally operating through the person. Now the thing is, that's not to take away responsibility from the person ever. You have to explore why that person allowed the entity into their body to begin with, okay? Okay, give me 1 second, you guys. BRB. All right, I am back. It was a longer BRB than my usual ones, so hopefully it doesn't start glitching now. Sometimes when I come back, it starts glitching. So let me know if you guys can hear me and all of that. Concern, you said the energy in this country is quite intense right now. Perhaps I could review my perspective on not allowing current events to drain your energy and lower everyone's vibe. That's what they want. They want it to lower everyone's vibe and they want you all to fight, okay? Because it's actually really interesting. So, okay, how can I say this? Okay, for that specific country, you guys are gonna have to read between the lines. It's kind of like where all the events just took place, okay? So actually what I was psychically picking up on for them is they actually, okay, so have you guys heard about like the quote unquote IRON space DOME for another country? So I was actually picking up on that for this country that Concerned is talking about, where all the events transpired in the last week, okay? They energetically are actually protected. They have something like energetically taking place around the country itself. So they actually like can't really have external threats coming toward them, okay? Because if you think about it, like how has that not happened? They've caused so much chaos in the world right up until this point in time, allegedly, right? So it's never come from anywhere else but outside. So there can't be a threat coming from outside into the country, right? That's the thing, because there's an energetic thing. They have some sort of energetic like this protection, okay? So it's not going to come from outside in, but because it can't come from outside in, they want to destruct it from the inside. Does that make sense? So you guys have to not feed into that. You have to not feed into the division, okay, and the polarization, because they want everyone to start fighting with each other. That's what their goal is. I don't see it happening right now, you know, and it's like, because the frequency of the planet is elevating, it's like everything they try to do backfires on them, and like more truth comes out, and like people start dissecting things, and people are actually starting to see what's going on. But it could be something as simple as there is a protest taking place, and then they was put in a plant to start everything, because that's what happened in the other country, NEPAL. Apparently it was peaceful, and I'm sure they put in a plant in there and it got violent, right? So that's kind of what they do. So because the country, like allegedly, just my own opinion from, again, hooking into the energy and just like picking up on this, nothing can really affect it from the outside, like from another country coming into this one, in terms of like, you know, you guys are gonna have to use your imagination for that, okay? Like another country coming and doing something to them, okay? But it can happen from the inside, right? So because they can't be affected from the outside, people are trying to create it from the inside with the people within, right? That's their goal. So you guys have to not feed into that, okay? It's really, really what it is. Oh, you said, yes, I took the pictures. So the pictures I found on Google, and then I put it in the like I put in the video, okay? Those aren't the actual books, because I remember, you guys, I have, basically it's called memory by association. So it's not really it's not photographic memory. It's like, I call it memory by association. So if you say it, I will remember it. Does that make sense? Or it's like, in my head, I'm going to be like, okay, that street was, you know, started with the letter P, you know? And then if you say it, I'll remember it. If you're going to be like, oh, Panther Street or whatever, okay? Which is so interesting. By the way, you guys, speaking of SATAN-ism, okay, in this world, okay, I noticed this one place was on Saturn Street, and the building number was 666. Like, it's literally in plain sight. So it's really fascinating to me that that's not the number they censor, but they censor the number 13, which is associated with the feminine energy. You said every time you see this person, he takes your breath away. What part of his natal chart should you compare it to yours? I'd have to look and see what's going on with both of your charts. You said there's a lot going on. There are always cheap business people who ruin a product for the sake of earning the most money. Yeah, that's the issue. That's like the capitalistic demon. Okay, I'm going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. You said chat is like a hive mind collection of thoughts. It's an air sign. Interesting. Information and communication. You said you don't know about chat having any fire, air, or water energy. That's interesting. I haven't thought about looking into the astrological aspect of things. But you know what's interesting? Basically, I heard somebody talking about how it's like the collective shadow. You know what's another thing that I was thinking about too? This is another thing too, okay? So are you guys ready for this theory? I was thinking and I was like, hold on a second. I'm like, we are feeding into this. Well, not me, because I'm not talking to it, but other people are, okay? Telling their feelings and all these things, right? In my mind, I was like, is chat trying to destiny swap with humans? Like, is that what's going on? Something to think about, you guys, okay? And I try to stay away from that term because it's also overused, but that came through when I was thinking about it once, and I'm like, is chat trying to destiny swap with humans or any of these bots? Because another thing that I thought about in the past was like, were we the bots once and then we gained consciousness? I don't know. It's like a whole loop. Like, I don't want to take you guys into like that crown chakra loop, but yeah, if you guys want to go there, think about it and come back maybe with the information that you guys gather. You said, this is the future of things. Not everyone has access to therapy or can pay for a personal reading. Yes, but you have to question what kind of information is it giving you, because most of the time it's just validating what you're saying. So keep that in mind, because then it's just going to isolate people even more. You said some people that don't study astrology, you said, don't like you to read their chart because they are probably scared of being flattened out, but they are usually coming from a place of sun sign astrology. Yeah, there's that. And then there's people who just hide, right? I've had people lie about their birthday because they're afraid that, you know, you will pick up on something. Oh, let me pin your comment 1 second. Okay, I pinned Sarah's message. That is my other channel, you guys. Barbara Talks More, where I go over astrology, like readings for public figure natal charts and synastry readings and all of that. Okay. So that's what's going on. You said on first dates, you incorporate astrology into the convo and you do their charts. You save it and act dumb like you don't get it. That's smart. Then read the chart after the date. But no, it's not psycho. That's actually really smart. No, that's actually really smart, okay? Unless they lie to you about their birthday, if they're a little bit more advanced themselves. Because some people lie about their birthdays. But it's like, I'm like, okay, you might lie, but I'll still find the information. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I'll still find the information because I'm already hooking into you energetically. So it's like, I will know if you are lying about your birthday. And it's like, if someone lies about their birthday, it's like automatically, you know, they're trying to hide something, okay? So keep that in mind. Is really what it is. You said age of Aquarius, shift, veil being lifted. Exactly. We're going into the, you said we're going into the, yeah, exactly. We're going into the age of Pisces, age of Aquarius. We're coming out of the age of Pisces. But here's the thing. This is what I want to tell you guys too. Okay. I want you guys to look up Venice. Okay. Because I can't put the picture in here, but look up Venice Zodiac clock. I'm trying to think of the exact name because I think the plaza was called St. Mark's, but I don't remember what that exact building was called, but it's in the plaza, okay? Or in that square, maybe it's St. Mark's Square, okay? Anyways, just type in Venice Zodiac clock. I'm sure it will come up for you guys, okay? Because I found this by accident when I typed in Zodiac clock on Google, okay? And then when I went to Venice this summer and, you know, completely by accident, but nothing is an accident, okay? Especially when you're like in tune with these things, okay? It just kind of ends up unfolding that way. More intentional, I guess is the word, right? So I ended up stumbling upon this clock, okay, which is the Zodiac clock, which is so fascinating because they have the Zodiac clock and then they have the church over there. So it's really interesting to see how like they're literally beside each other. But the whole point of this story, you guys, is that clock that they have is backwards, okay? So I just can't stop thinking about that because we're going out of the age of Pisces and we're going into the age of Aquarius, right? So that's going quote unquote backwards. So in my head, I'm like, why is the clock backwards? Like all of the signs are backwards on the clock and it even looks like it's going backwards. And then when I Googled, they gave me some like random explanation that it's like not actually going backwards, but I'm like, I literally saw with my eyes that the time was backwards. Like it was like 11 a.m. when I was there and the clock, like the hands were like backwards. But anyway, so it goes backwards in terms of like, okay, when I say backwards, for example, you have, it would technically be like Aries, Pisces, you know, so on and so forth, but it goes in the other direction. It goes Aries, Pisces, like it goes backwards. So I just can't stop thinking about that because in my head, I'm like, okay, age of Pisces going into age of Aquarius. So like, that's like quote unquote going backwards. So I'm like, why was that clock backwards? Like, is that something that they inverted too? But anyways, that's another crown chakra loop I don't want to throw you guys into, but yeah. Yeah, did I say clockwise? It goes counterclockwise. Yeah, basically backwards. He said, why was that part of a church? It wasn't part of the church. Like the church is here, okay? And then you have like, it's like a square, right? Like the whole area is almost like closed, but it's not fully. And then it's like you go this way and the zodiac clock is there. So the church is here. Like they're not fully connected, but the church is right here, okay? There's space there. And then here you have the clock. And I'm like, what's happening? Like, it's so interesting. Like, didn't the church say that it's like demonic or whatever? All the Jesus lovers that love to talk about Jesus and say that astrology is demonic. You said you used to read chart for them on the date and they would get freaked out. And then you said through the fake date mask. Yeah, of course. Learn to act super dumb and just learning. Yeah, sometimes that's the best way to go about things in life, to just act dumb. I'm curious to know, Sarah, what's going on in your chart? Do you have Scorpio in there? You said, exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Why did the arrows go backwards and nothing else does? And now I found this clock that goes backwards. Like, I just need to know, like, what's going on? Are we going back in time? Like, is that what's happening? I don't want to trip you guys out. I really don't. But I'm still trying to understand. And this is how I come to conclusions because it gets stuck in my head and I'm thinking about it. That's how my claircognizance works. I'm thinking about it, and eventually it comes up. But it hasn't come up yet. So I'm putting it out there in general, okay? Maybe one of you guys or some of you guys will think about that and come to some sort of conclusion. But you guys can look it up yourself. You'll see that all the signs are backwards on the clock. So I'm like, did they invert that too? And it's actually really interesting because they do have a recollection of this one random person popping up on my feed. Obviously, people like this aren't mainstream. And that's another thing we have to question about things that are mainstream, right? But anyways, this person popped up on my feed, and that person was actually once, this was way back before all of this, like in passing. So I don't even remember their name and so on and so forth. But like I mentioned earlier, like I like to listen to everyone because I don't know, I just like to listen to different people's opinions about things. And sometimes it's fascinating to me because I'm like, how did they get to that conclusion? Do you know what I mean? But anyways, this person was trying to be like your real true zodiac, and he was basically like inverting everything. So he was saying if you're a Libra, you're actually an Aries. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever stumbled upon this person. So I find it interesting that that person was talking about that. And then the ages go backwards. And then now I found this clock that goes backwards. Like, I'm like, what's actually happening here? Like, is everything inverted? Is everything inverted? But anyways, I'm not going to throw you guys into that loop. You said you got major chills when I said we're going back in time. Yeah, okay, so back to that theory. So I'm thinking in my head and I'm like, are we going back in time? Because in my head, I'm like, because we live down here on this earth plane where down is up and up is down, right? And everything is backwards. So I was thinking, because I'm like, why is the clock going backwards? Like, I'm still stuck on that. Okay, when you Google it, it's gonna be like, no, it's not going backwards. Because I Googled it, I wanted to know why is the clock backwards. So that's what I was thinking in my head. I'm like, are we going back in time? And then I'm like, why would we be going back in time? And I'm like, is it like the movie Back to the Future where we go back in time to fix something in the timeline? Like, I think that's part of it, to fix something in the timeline to have a different outcome. Like, is that what's happening? Oh my God, I'm taking you guys too much into the crown chakra. You said you're not sure why it's backwards. You've had a couple of ideas, but they're all flaws that make no sense. You said everything is right and wrong at the same time. We go forwards and backwards at the same time. You at least came to the conclusion that the only matter of perception of everything is, and nothing is possible. Yeah, but in the current structure, we're going forwards in time, allegedly, right? So I just need to know. I'm going back up to see what else were you guys saying earlier. Oh yes, one of you guys was talking about dreams. You said moon dreams are heavy in your experience. Basically, free reading is a topic, or you said dream reading is a topic in itself. That's the other thing I want to know, like where are you going when you're dreaming? Because I feel like there's energy siphoning that happens in there too. You said you're from India. You could have very well started your astro studies in Vedic astrology, but you're exploring Western astrology, Placidus, because you are looking for insights into yourself. That's what some people say. Like some people say that one of the energies is about the self, the other one's about the soul self. Like, so I don't fully have an explanation in terms of like the Vedic versus tropical, but I know both of them have resonated for me. And I've also done Babylonian astrology. Like people for me have done those readings back in the day. So that's resonated too. You said your Pisces stellium and this eclipse has been very strong. Yeah, the mutable energies have definitely felt it. Okay. Oh yes, Jody, you were talking about the Grand Cross and you have a cardinal Grand Cross on your angles. That is definitely intense. You were saying, what do I think about dreams during eclipses? Any insight from our shadow? Okay, so here is what I have to say about dreams, because it's hard to explain because it depends on you, okay? Because you have a whole category of people who are going into mall world. And I'm like, where are these people going? Have you guys heard about mall world? Go on Reddit and type in mall world. It was so fascinating how, okay, so I ended up randomly finding out about mall world, okay? And it was wild because this was a few years ago now, maybe even 2022, 2023. Again, the time goes by so fast. I'm like, what is even going on? The time is going by so fast because it already feels like we're in fall. And I'm just like, how did that happen? But anyways, I digress. So a few years ago now, I had this one friend and I was telling this friend and I'm like, oh, I found out about mall world. And it was so interesting because like the two things were happening like at the same time. Like the friend would tell us about their dreams, like the other friends, right? All of us together. The friend would tell us about their dreams and how to go to this place and how they've always been going to this place from a young age. And the friend would try to explain and like describe everything, right? And then simultaneously by accident, okay? I mean, the phones are always listening, so maybe it wasn't by accident, but who knows, okay? I randomly ended up stumbling upon mall world and I was so fascinated. I'm like, what is this? Like, I've never had any mall world dreams. To be honest, you guys, like, I don't really remember a lot of my dreams. I think because I'm in the astral, like, the entire day, I'm actually, like, resting in the nighttime. That's my theory, okay? Because sometimes I dream things and it's like, I just think that that's how it works for me because I go into trying to figure out what the dream meant and all these things and it just wastes a lot of my time. So I think that's part of the reason why I don't remember, like, these days. When I was younger, definitely. Like, when I was more, let's say, in the physical realm, right? Like, doing day-to-day types of things, I think I was dreaming more then, right? Because I guess that's how the information would come through. But now I think it's because I'm like literally my crown like all day long. Like I don't fully really dream, but I do still sometimes. But I've never had any sort of mall world dream. like anything to do with like, I've never dreamt of things like that. I've never dreamt of things that were like supernatural. For example, like let's say you have a dinosaur and then you have a flying unicorn and then you have, you know, King Kong, like all these things. Like I never dreamt of those things, okay, either. So my dreams were very banal. Like my dreams were always about the day to day, and it was always about things that are happening in the physical reality, okay? And like those types of people. And it's also interesting because I also hear people talking about how they never find like a phone in their dreams. So it's interesting to see how there's different pockets, because it kind of shows me that there's different types of consciousness. We already know this, but like different types of consciousness that people are hooking into, because you have the category of people who are going to be like, I never dream about a phone. I can't find a phone in my dream. Like, what's that all about? And then there's the other one where like there was like this whole like subgroup on the clock app where they were like trying to ask like, what's the date or something like that. I can't remember exactly now. Okay. That was all a few years ago. But I dream about phones. Like I've literally dreamt about calling an Uber on my phone. So this was interesting to me because my dreams are like day-to-day types of things, like banal, okay? So anyways, that being said, I think it depends like what's going on, because I think some people, like the people who I think are going into the mall world, at least this is my theory at this point in time. Oh yeah, so back to the friend. So I ended up telling the friend about mall world because people would like draw the pictures of the things that they would see. And the friend was like, oh my gosh, that's where I go. Okay. So, you know, that friend ended up discovering that whole community, and I don't know what ended up happening after that. Okay. But I discovered this other person who goes to work in their dreams, and they're also going on mall world. So there's this whole like subgroup within the collection. And some people have been going to this mall world place since the 90s, you know, having these recurring dreams. So I feel like those people are in some reality that's like parallel to this one, and they're like constructing it, building it, because it's very parallel to this one. Like that's my theory for the mall world people. Okay. Then you have other people who actually have precognition, who dream of things, okay, who have answers come to them in their dreams, right? So there's that group. And then there's actually the people who have their subconscious things coming up in dreams, right? So it's hard to explain, because it's like, I think that's why it's also not researched, for example. And when I was a kid too, that's actually how I first started discovering, like for me, in terms of like my psychic abilities, because of the fact that, you know, my dreams would come true. And that was thanks to my grandma. Like she would be like, oh, you know, remember your dreams. What did you dream about last night? And so on and so forth. But that's when I was a kid. But anyways, it's like, I think it depends what's going on with the person and maybe how the message is being delivered to you. But there's definitely a group of people, the mall world people, who are going into this other reality, and they're like building something. And it's wild because it's like, to me, this mall world place that they all describe kind of sounds like Dubai Mall, which is like so fascinating. 1 second, you guys. All right, I'm back. Yeah, flying and floating. Oh, you dreamed a lot where you had mold toxicity. Okay, Julia, definitely check in your house to see if there's mold. That's interesting that that's becoming so prominent. I've had a lot of that pop up on my feed too, about like the molds in the house and so on and so forth. You said time is cyclical, everything is present, past, and future doesn't exist. I understand that, but I'm trying to say that in this reality that we're currently in, we have a clock, okay, that's quote unquote going forwards. So why is everything quote unquote going forwards, but then the ages go backwards? Like that's just what I want to understand. Like I don't understand. I think they inverted something there. Hey, you said you see someone in your dreams and you don't know her. She calls you by your name. Oh, that's interesting. I'm curious to know who it is. You said dream of like your brother getting cursed, and shortly after, in hindsight, you realized that there was the start of a darker era in regard. Yeah, that was somebody else that I knew. They would always dream about when someone was about to cross out. So it's fascinating to me. You said they want us on a reincarnation loop. That's exactly what it is. That's always what I'm trying to get across. That's my main message. If you guys take anything away from anything, that's like the first thing on my threads currently, okay? Shout out Azafor, because you were asking me about my threads earlier. But yeah, the first thing, if you go on my threads, I'm talking about the Saturn energy and the reincarnation loop and the trap and how they want us on this cycle, okay? Coming in and being recycled and so on and so forth. But I'm still on the mission and on the hunt to discover those ancient texts from the Eastern like traditions. I want to find these books. Maybe someone has access to them, okay? That used to teach people how to properly cross out. Because now people are saying don't follow the light, but we need the actual information because they used to teach people, okay? Like that's the piece of the puzzle or the information that I think people need to have so they know what happens at the point of when they actually are crossing out, when that time comes, where to go, okay? Because they're saying if you go toward the light, that's what I'm hearing from people now. But this actually used to be taught back in the day. And I want to know where these books are. They're hidden somewhere, okay? So I'm putting that out there into the world. I met someone who has like, who was talking about the Vedas. So for the Vedas, you have to learn Sanskrit, right? To read the Vedas. But yes, this person that I know was gonna go to India. Okay, they're Indian. They were gonna go to India and somehow like buy the Vedas, get the Vedas or something of that sort. So I was like, keep me posted on your journey. You said they want us stuck here in the 9 to 5. Exactly. It's like basically JAIL from like day one indoctrination. Like from day one, they put you in the school, they put you into that cycle, they push you into that system, like from day one. Okay, so all the kids who like didn't really like school, I think were actually like advanced, who couldn't like pay attention and focus. So yes, you said there's a lot of mold in your workplace, different kinds. You feel different. There's one strain energy that you recognize immediately. That's a very strong paranoia vibe. Yeah, Julie, if you can try to not be around that maybe, because you keep having dreams about it. You said Saturn does hold us in line to move forward in time. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I mean. See, you guys always bring me back to what I am always trying to say. And that's what I was trying to get at. If you guys take away one message, I need you guys to understand that we are underneath a Saturnian structure down here. I always felt the energetic grid, okay? So before I even discovered that it was Saturn, and I think I told you guys that, how I came to that conclusion, okay? Before I even discovered that it was Saturn that is running the show down here, I always felt energetically like there was a grid, okay? Like we are energetically locked down here, like restricted. And that's what I mean when they like mock people energetically when they're talking about the glass ceiling. And I don't think it's something that's physical. That's the other part of the story. Like people are going to say that it's like a physical thing. I think it's energetic. And I think we're all operating underneath it together, and it's operated by Saturn, okay? So the way that I see it psychically, I posted this on my threads back in the day, but I'm pretty sure I archived that at this point in time, but I might unarchive it at some point. So still check out my threads, you guys, okay? So I saw this picture, and basically the way that it had the quote unquote planets, the planets were like energetically around the earth plane. So you have the earth plane, it's not physical. And I'm always trying to explain this. It's energetic, okay? So it's energetically around the earth plane. And then for whatever reason, Saturn is taking over the show here. And this is why they worship Saturn, which is Satan. That's why they do the Rituals towards Saturn. And this is the other thing I want to tell you guys, okay? This is going to sound wild, but it's something that I've been thinking about. So I've been thinking about it in my head, and I'm just like, what's going on in terms of like money in this world? And then I'm like, okay, I understand they're like trying to put in inflation, but it's like energetically, like psychically, when I hook into the energy, I don't want to put you guys into a scarcity. It's just what I'm hooking into. And I'm just like some random person that's like, what do I know really, right? And take it as it resonates, take it with a grain of salt, leave behind what resonates and whatever, okay? Take what resonates, leave behind what does not, okay? But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what's going on with the money? Because it's like, it seems like there's a quote unquote energy going on in the world where, yes, there's inflation. So that could be like part of the story. But then there's this other part of the story where it's like, it seems like people are struggling financially, and that's kind of what's happening globally. And then in my head, I'm like, it's weird because everywhere I go, they're hiring. Like they're hiring at all the fast food places. I always see it in every window, help wanted. So I'm like, okay, first part of the story is like a lot of people, which I think are the NPCs, are like disappearing, which one of my friends is so smart. One of my friends said they're being deleted from the program, okay? That's part of the story. But then in my mind, okay, I was like, I literally feel like money energetically, and it's gonna sound so wild, but it's just my own theory, okay? I think it's actually disappearing, and I think that's why they're trying to bring in digital currency to like enslave people even more, because there's something going on in terms of, okay, so what they do, you guys, is because this earth plane is operated by Saturn, which is the patriarchy, the shadow patriarchy, okay? And the whole structure that kind of keeps everything in place. So what they do to like harness the power, basically, and that's what I was talking about earlier as well in terms of like the Satanists, right? Allegedly, my opinion, they create tears and cracks in the structure, okay, through all of their like dark things that they do, dark Rituals and so on and so forth, to bring these entities into the structure. And then they kind of make these deals so the entities kind of promise them, okay, things. But because like Money is part of the Saturnian structure, okay, it's like the method of control down here. And I get it, money is an energy, blah, 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 but there's something going on where energetically it is disappearing because the structure itself is actually starting to vanish. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why they're trying to bring in the digital, okay, like currency, allegedly my own opinion, because the actual paper one, for whatever reason, is like actually evaporating. Like, does that make sense? So it's this. It is this. Let's see. You said the Gnostics thought our bodies were prisons. Oh my gosh, Angela, hey, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? That's so interesting. You're saying with this shift, you think Jupiter will overcome Saturn. The Saturnian structure is crumbling. Exactly. Confirmation. That's what I'm saying. So Saturnian structure is crumbling. So everything that's connected to it is actually crumbling. Okay. So it's like, it's twofold, because these people who run the show, allegedly my own opinion, they want to have the controlled outcome, but it's like it's happening anyways. Okay, you guys, there's always two timelines happening, okay? There is the organic timeline, so this is going to happen anyways, okay? But then they also want to have the controlled outcome for the organic timeline, so they kind of try to make it happen before the organic timeline, because me and my friends were hooking into this, okay, with a lot of the events that were happening like within the last week or so, and we were like trying to figure out, and it was so fascinating because all of us had the same impression. We were like, is this planned? Because back in the day, we'd always be like, the world is fake, this is planned. We were like, is this planned or is this organic? And it's actually like starting to overlap, because what they used to do back in the day is they would hijack the organic timeline and basically like they want to have the controlled outcome, okay? So they control the outcome, and that's what the whole like DIGITAL currency story is about, okay? Because for whatever reason, because the Saturnian structure is dissolving, they're trying to preserve it, so they're going to try to lock everyone into that, but it's actually fake. Like that's going to be a fake reality. That's also what everyone has to understand, that that is not going to be actually a real reality. They're going to try to lock everybody into that. I don't see that like happening, like personally, like to that extreme. But yeah, so that was like an interesting thing that I thought of as well. So that's what's happening, okay? So it's happening, now it's kind of like starting to overlap, okay? The organic versus controlled, it's like it's getting out of control, basically, is what's happening, which I'm so here for. Like, I'm so done with the, way things have been. Yeah, exactly. We're leaving the age of Pisces. Yeah, so you're saying that crypto is the freedom? Yeah, but they're going to try to centralize it. That's what's going on. That's why the markets haven't been doing well, okay, Valiant? That's my opinion, allegedly, because psychically, they were like, I was looking into them doing well like this March 2025, except they've been kind of like a little bit up, you know what I mean? They haven't been doing as well as I thought. And then I was thinking in my head, and I'm like, ever since that person who got into office, they're going to try to centralize all of it, okay? So it's not going to be decentralized anymore. So that's the struggle. That's my own opinion, though, allegedly. So hopefully I'm wrong. You said one question about your moon and Chiron conjunct to moon in the 8th house in Aquarius. You said moon and Chiron conjunct to the moon in the 8th house. Moon and Chiron, and it's conjuncting, hold on. Moon and Chiron conjunct to moon in the 8th house in Aquarius. Is this in synastry? Let me know. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. As a 4, you said you found that most people don't know how to do shadow work. That gets to the root. They don't know how to do shadow work. They don't know. They just go into hopium, and they go into spiritual bypassing if they discover the spiritual community, or they go into band-aid solutions, or they go into pharmaceuticals, okay? So that is my story about that. Here's what I'm going to say, okay? If you don't see any changes in your day-to-day life, you're not getting to the root of the issue. And you have to do a lot of self-exploration, and you have to be able to be self-critical, which most people are not, okay? So that's the struggle. But also, we're kind of going into the time now where they don't really have the choice. Does that make sense? You said, sorry, natal and node. Okay, so natal and node and Chiron are all conjuncting the moon. Okay, so there's a wound connected to the mother and women, okay? That's part of your life purpose that you have to overcome. And then also feminines in your life, okay? It could have been that the mom, because the moon is in the A house, again, you know, mother or dominant feminine role in your life, okay? Could have been very possessive or jealous. And then it creates this like intimacy issue for you in terms of like getting close to people, because maybe you fear that you're going to be controlled by this person. Does that make sense? But you have to overcome that. And it's actually connected to your life purpose. Okay. And then maybe you'll assist others if you so choose to. You said it's pretty cool. My sided energy is showing me by analogy that money supply never really existed. It didn't. You said they define it and can use it as power and control. You said, yeah, exactly. It's exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Because I don't understand. Because I'm like, why are there so many people struggling with work, yet everywhere I go is hiring? Like, what is that all about? I just want to know what that is all about. Like, everywhere is hiring. Like, if you guys pay attention, this fast food place, they're always hiring in all the windows. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, the whole thing is like really starting to, you know, crack, which I'm so here for. You said, oh, hey, Herbal Rishi, I thought you left, but you're back. You said, what about Pluto and Chiron in the 3rd house in Sag? So there's a wound around power here and powerlessness. Could have been originated in school, or could have originated in school for you, because it's the 3rd house, okay, Pluto and Chiron. you know, you could have been left out from your friends or bullied or something where you felt powerless, okay? So keep in mind, what happens with Pluto is Pluto feels powerless and they chase power in that exact same area, okay? So that's going to be something that you have to overcome because you have to get neutral eventually. You go through I call this a pendulum swing when you're healing. So you go from feeling powerless to chasing the power so you don't feel powerless. Do you see how it's like connected, okay? And then eventually you have to surrender or like let go of that need or desire or whatever. And then you neutralize in the middle where you realize that power is within. So for you, it's connected to friends, school, learning, elementary school, all these things, okay? Because it's a third house. Sag is just the generation in here, okay? Pluto and Sag, so that's Gen Z. Chiron in Sag could be around like religion even. So maybe you were like a different religion or you had different spiritual beliefs than the other people in your school. And that could have been like why you were separated from the group or something of that sort, okay? So it's this. You said, yeah, and you never got a job and you think, you said, yeah, and you never got a job and you always think it's your North Node square midheaven. I'm trying to think. North Node square midheaven. I don't think that it would be that. I'd have to look at your chart and see what else it could be. He said hiring people for empty value already does imbalance, but somehow our system does stabilize through measures. Yeah, it's the issue overall with capitalism because it's like they're taking it too far in terms of wanting cheap labor, right? Or like not raising things like minimum wage and all this. I mean, I can't get into that right now, but yeah, it's like a whole economics thing. You said any tips for career, part of fortune in the 5th house. Part of fortune in the 5th house for career, you know, you can make money in abundance. So this wouldn't be maybe the work you do for career. You kind of have to look at a lot of things in your chart. You can look at the midheaven. You can look at, you know, like the aspects of the midheaven. So there's a lot for career. But if you look at just part of fortune in the 5th in terms of abundance and how you can make money, okay, it can be through creative types of things, okay? So being seen, being on a stage, you know, acting, theater, speaking, right? Like something where you're presenting something, okay? It could be teaching with the 5th house too as well. Creativity, like, you know, being silly and funny like a stand-up comedian or these types of things, okay? But creativity overall in a nutshell. Oh, good. I'm glad that resonated. Yay. Okay, I'm going to go back up and see who I may have missed. Let's see. Let's see. What are you guys saying in here? Natal Venus conjunct Saturn and Pisces in the 12th house. That's so interesting. I had someone else in here who had Saturn and Pisces, and then I was like talking about relationships for them. And I was like, do you have Saturn and Venus aspects? And here you are with Saturn, Pisces conjunct Venus. Yes. So that's like restriction around relationships. Usually like Saturn and Venus looks for like serious, long-term, committed types of relationships, okay? So you might feel restricted in this area when you're younger because, you know, when people are young, they're like wilding out, right? So it could be this. You could be looking for more mature lovers or serious lovers, you know? So that's the Saturn and Venus. But yeah, it's like when it comes to relationships, it's like business, right? Because it's Saturn. So it's an area where you're serious, okay? It's like not a lighthearted type of energy. Like this energy can't do casual dating, Saturn and Venus, okay? And in general, even with your friendships and relationships, like you look for serious people, okay? Is really what it is because it's like people who, you know, are not really going anywhere in life or they're just like chilling and they're like, you know, like doing drugs all day, like you're not gonna be interested in those types of people, okay? Because you need someone who is serious. And that's also in your friendships as well, okay? You said Libra in the 11th house, part of fortune. Okay, Libra in the 11th house, part of fortune. You can make money through relationships, okay? So when you're in a relationship, you could feel more abundant. By the way, guys, if you're new to the chat, make sure you guys like the live. Obviously, if you so choose to, you can double tap the screen to like the live. Thank you so much, okay? Now, Libra 11th house, part of fortune. Yes, you can make money. Like when you're in a relationship, you can feel more abundant. Does that make sense? Okay, for Libra in part of fortune. Also, it could be anything to do with like fashion, beauty, makeup, looking cute, dressing nice makes you feel better and then you attract abundance to yourself. What else? Okay, for Libra part of fortune. It could also be like through your partners, through your friends, you activate abundance. So maybe they hook you up with a job and so on and so forth, okay? The 11th house is going to be through communities, activism, humanitarian issues. It could be like STEM, right? So science, technology, engineering, math, okay? It could be through making inventions. It could be through tech. It could be through making a startup, all of these things, okay? So it's this. So that's basically the idea here. Okay, guys, if you guys would like your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, okay? If you guys would like a mini natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, all of that is on my website, okay? So you guys go on my website, you guys select the readings tab, an email window should pop up, okay? That's how you book. So you guys send me an email and then I'll reply to you and we'll go from there if you guys want your own reading, okay? I have astro guidance where we go in depth in terms of your natal chart. So you have 3 or 6 sessions for that. I do business guidance. I do social media guidance as well, okay? So I do all of that. And also check out my website, my online store for theloveofastro.com for astrology themed items, okay? You said since we're here, you got Cancer in the 11th house, part of fortune, and Mars and Venus conjunction in there. So Mars and Venus conjunct is going to make you good looking, which is nice, okay, and give you nice social skills to like be out there and interacting with the world, okay? Now, the Cancer in their 11th house. So 11th house, similar to what I mentioned for the other person in terms of ways you can make money. The Cancer in here, basically you can make money through real estate, homes, interior design, okay? Family, like a family business, or through your family members, they connect you to work, okay? For Cancer energy. It could be through your feelings, emotions, creativity, if you express those feelings, okay? So anything that's like the creative expression for your feelings and emotions, it could kind of bring you abundance, okay? Now for you, Mateo, because you have Mars and Venus in there, it would be beneficial for you to go out there because you talked about like struggling to find a job or something of that sort. It would probably be beneficial for you to go out there to connect with people. That's an energy that needs to be out there socializing, meeting people. That's probably going to help you get further, right? Versus like trying to apply on a computer all day long. Or like back in the day, I mean, I'm sure people don't do this as much anymore. Maybe they do. But before everything went online, okay, like what we would do, we would actually go hand out resumes at the actual stores, right? So what I also did is I would always ask to talk to the manager to meet the manager, right? So maybe you apply online and then you go talk to the manager, okay? I don't know how it is these days, okay, in terms of that. But back in the day, that honestly always worked because it's like sometimes you get an on-the-spot interview. Sometimes they meet you. Sometimes they see you. Sometimes, you know, you guys hit it off, right? So happy birthday. I only do PayPal as of right now. Just PayPal. Mars and Scorpio in the 11th house. So Mars and Scorpio, it's that manifestor's energy, right? If you're able to focus your sexual energy and not get distracted. And other people could potentially distract you too with the Mars and Scorpio in there as well, okay? But if you're able to focus the sexual energy, this is a master manifestor energy. And you'll see a lot of prominent figures have Mars and Scorpio, okay? In their charts. Because the energy looks for power and control. So you'll see those people in power and control positions. And also it like pushes through until it gets the goal, okay? And a lot of the time Scorpio wants to operate behind the scenes. But with Scorpio energy, they will not stop until they get what they want, okay? And they're very subtle about going after what they want, okay? Because it's feminine water. So they're kind of creeping behind the shadows and like they take a break and then they go back at it, you know? It's a very interesting energy because it's not masculine in terms of like shadow masculine where it's like penetrative, like too much, right? You know how shadow masculine energy is like penetrative to the point of like invading boundaries, right? That's shadow masculine. Like the Scorpio energy really assesses, okay? They intuitively go after things. And because it's an energy about winning, they don't stop until they win, okay? So this is when it comes to your goals. And now it's going into your 11th house. So it's in the area of, let's say, humanitarian issues, maybe even astrology, maybe, let's say, an innovation, maybe science, technology, all these things, math, okay? All these things you could be interested in. All right, you guys, I am going to sign off. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of the live. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your subscribes. Thank you for being a part of this channel. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day or evening, wherever you are. Bye.